Indeed. All right. So, it's already 12:45 now. I only had you guys scheduled till 1. I know if you've got to run, I understand, but I did bring a panel of all veterans here to talk about our one big thing this week, which was the declaration of war on a large chunk of the American people by our president and the Secretary of Vodka, Pete Hegseth. So this from the Associated Press, where I will begin. So President Donald Trump on Tuesday proposed using American cities as training grounds for the armed forces and spoke of needing U.S. military might to combat what he called the invasion from within. Addressing an audience of military brass abruptly summoned to Virginia, and mind you, this is a highly unusual thing to bring all of the country's top generals and admirals from all over the globe to sit in the same room as the president of the United States. I mean, boy, good thing there wasn't a bomb dropped on this thing. My God. But during this meeting, Trump outlined a muscular and at times norm-shattering view of the military's role in domestic affairs. He was joined by Drinky Pete, who declared an end to the woke culture and announced new directives for troops that include gender-neutral or, quote, male-level standards for physical fitness. The dual messages underscored the Trump administration's effort not only to reshape contemporary Pentagon culture, but to enlist military resources for the president's priorities and for decidedly domestic purposes, including quelling unrest and violent crime. Trump said, quote, "We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military. We're under invasion from within, no different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. The enemy within, hey, that's us."
It's the enemy from within is Donald Trump.
Yeah, after calling all these leaders and advisors from the world to the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Hegseth focused on, culture war talking points that painted a picture of a military hamstrung by woke policies. And he said leaders should do the honorable thing and resign if they don't like his new approach. So I guess I want to open things up there and ask you, Derek, should they? Or should military leaders stay in place to maybe push back on these policies?
It is their sworn duty to push back on these policies. I mean, for Hegseth to say that and Captain Bonespurs to talk about it, hell, they were talking about fat generals in the Pentagon. Look at our commander in fucking chief.
The fattest general of them all.
Like, Jesus. I mean, I'm not skinny by any freaking means, but good God, I'm not running the military. So,
well, no one in this administration is actually running the military or anything else into the ground.
Yeah. And then to that point, I mean, when you talk about weight standards and all that stuff, I mean, there are certain jobs. I mean, there are certain full disclosure. I was an MS, which is a mess management specialist in the Navy. Okay, I was a cook. Now, one thing I've always learned in that industry: don't trust the skinny cook. Okay, there's something wrong in that picture. Okay, but you still have to adhere to the military. You still have to adhere to whatever the physical standards are. Now, grant you, for my height, I was supposed to be 185 pounds. Did I ever hit that mark? I'm going to tell you, the last time I saw 180 was south of boot camp. Okay, that's not going to happen. But the flip side of that is we still could do our jobs, which is all that matters. As long as you can do your job and do it well, carry on smartly. Okay. Now, I mean, there are reasonable limits, obviously, to that. But I mean, this idea that there's dual standards for, this person or that person or whatever, that doesn't exist. That's all bull crap. I'm sorry.
But there are bad standards in the military. And what this and to your point, Charles, I mean, I was skinnier than I am now in the military, and I was always overweight. I always had to be taped. I was always not hitting those marks. My minimum weight at 5'10" was 119 pounds. Can you imagine me 70 pounds lighter?
No, I'm sorry.
So,
that's math.
and while push-ups and sit-ups and the run might have had different standards, we have the same standards on the battlefield.
Exactly.
And to say that a few extra push-ups would make me a better female soldier or a little bit faster run or a few more sit-ups is fucking garbage.
I'm glad you guys are sort of talking about the physical standards here thing, because Hegseth focused on that and made a big deal out of it, and he likes to show off the poor form on his own pull-ups. Not that I can't talk. I can't do one at this point, I don't think, but still. Like, that's not the kind of war we fight anymore. It's 2025, man. We are not running across the field carrying a bayonet and engaging in hand-to-hand combat. I don't know how fit you have to be to fly a drone.
I mean, that kind of combat will happen in our backyards, in our streets. That is more likely to happen on American soil than anywhere else around the world.
I'm glad you brought that up, and thank you, because I wanted to bring up this enemy within thing, all right? Because I don't mean to be trite, like, it's not just a rhetorical technique by Trump. It is like there are documents behind this, okay? And this went under the radar again because here we are in the middle of this like fire hose of bullshit. That big stuff goes unnoticed because there's so much going on. Well, we got this last week. It is a national security presidential memorandum, and NSPM 7. It's called by administration insiders, and Ken Klippenstein over on Substack has a very good detailed explanation of this thing. This is not just like an executive order, okay? This is more comprehensive. This actually is an all of government effort to describe, well, he says to dismantle left-wing terrorism, but let's look at what they call left-wing terrorism, okay? So, here. In NPSM 7, Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence, Trump directs the Justice Department, the FBI, and other national security agencies and departments, and local police forces too, mind you, to fight his version of political violence in America, retooling a network of joint terrorism task forces to focus on leftist political violence in America. This vast counterterrorism army, made up of federal, state, and local agents, would, as Trump aide Stephen Miller said, form the central hub of that effort. NSPM 7 directs a new national strategy to disrupt any individual or groups that foment political violence, including, and this is a key phrase, before they result in violent political acts. So, in other words, like the movie Minority Report, they're targeting pre-crime. The administration isn't only targeting organizations or groups, but even individuals and entities whom NSPM 7 says can be identified by any of the following indicators of violence: anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, extremism on race, extremism on gender, hostility toward those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, or morality. And it shouldn't be necessary for me to tell you that the Trump administration has a very expansive definition of what things like anti-Americanism, anti-Christianity, and, you know, extremism on gender and race mean. I'm wearing the shirt, but I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure they're describing me to a T.
Oh, it's describing all of us.
But if you want to take it literally, it is describing them. They are anti-American. They are anti-Christian. They're pro-capitalism, but it's toxic capitalism. They are anti-conscious capitalism. They are the enemy. They are the terrorists.
Exactly. And so what you see here is now we have official government direction from the administration to target domestic enemies. And now, as I understand, that is not what the United States Armed Forces are for. The United States Armed Forces are for fighting enemies abroad. Do I understand that correctly, Charles? Is there any appropriate use for active duty American troops against the enemy within?
In this context, absolutely not. The United States military was never intended to fight against our own people. And you have to, and you go back and you look at Posse Comitatus Act. You look at
grab him by the Posse Comitatus,
right? And and this is where, again, if there was a, if you roll it back in history to this, the Civil War period, okay, that was one thing, but since that point, no, and that point doesn't exist. The physicality of war on the domestic front does not exist. Only in their delusional mindset does this even predominate itself. So at no point should the United States military ever be used against Americans, full stop, period. Now, National Guard troops, they're kind of stuck in this weird halfway between because they have to deal with domestic, with the good God, talk about brain parts.
Well, they are used for domestic things like natural disasters.
Thank you. That's where I was trying to get to.
Actual, literal, violent
scenarios.
riots.
But they can be used. I mean, look, what we're seeing, Trump is deploying National Guard troops, like full circle, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Chicago and Portland, just like they've done in Los Angeles and Memphis and other places until now. You are allowed to deploy National Guard troops to quell unrest, like I believe in 1992 during the LA riots was the last time the Insurrection Act was invoked. Right. Now we can argue about whether that constitutes an insurrection under any means, but situations like that do call for deployment of the Guard for a very limited set of purposes. Yes.
But that should be peacekeeping. This is not, here's what a deployment is. And I don't agree with us having been in Iraq, but here's a deployment. A deployment is you get orders, you have time to prepare. You have time to prepare your will, you have time to prepare your family, your childcare, your job. That is how a deployment works with Guard and reserves, typically. Now, in an emergency, not necessarily, but there's training that leads up to that. Training that leads up to hurricane relief, tornado relief, disaster relief. There is training for that. There is not training for this. There is no deployment for this. There is no deployment where you are taking your soldiers, your troops, and saying, okay, they're peacefully protesting, go fucking get them. There is not deployment and preparation for this. We are not trained for that. As a military police soldier,
California, right, Blythe?
Yeah,
like, they were just called up, sent into this. Like they basically had nowhere to stay.
Yes,
this is National Guard. This is reserves. These are people who actually have like day jobs,
and most of them aren't trained like me to have used riot gear as military police. Most of them, this is a sentence. This is trauma. This is they are, as always, using military and veterans as pawns. These are our pawns that they are putting in place and making us, our sisters and brothers in arms who are currently serving, they are using us as pawns. They are using us for really ill-intended results.
And there is a very key distinction between military law enforcement and civilian law enforcement.
Yes.
It's two distinctly different ballgames.
And civilian law enforcement has roots in slavery, and it should not be treated in this capacity. Military and civilian law enforcement should be peacekeeping, keeping people safe.
Yeah, this is one of those things. I think this came up a lot in 2020 during the George Floyd protests and just the protests in general against police brutality. Is that, military police, our soldiers. There are rules of engagement, right?
Yeah.
There are certain steps you're supposed to go through before you actually point a weapon or deploy a weapon. Whereas police in this country are held, it seems, to a lesser standard against our own civilian populations.
The people who pay their salaries.
So this is, that's problematic in its own right. So, but I guess in a way I'm heartened. I saw this one. This is from Military Times. So according to this article, 4 in 5 U.S. troops surveyed understand their duty to disobey illegal orders. So as you recall, on August 11th, Trump announced he was going to send the National Guard to D.C., to fight crime, edging U.S. troops closer to the kind of military-civilian confrontations that, cross ethical and legal lines is an understatement to say the least. So apparently this is affecting troop morale. This is the moral injuries of this operation, I think, will be enduring, said one National Guard member who had deployed to quell the unrest in Los Angeles. Like Blythe said, it's trauma, right? Troops who are ordered to do something illegal are in a bind, so much so that some argue that the troops themselves are harmed when given such orders. You guys are not trained in legal nuance. You are conditioned to obey. And yet, if you obey a, quote, manifestly unlawful order, you can be prosecuted. And some analysts fear that, U.S. troops are ill-equipped to recognize that threshold. However, like we said, you're compelled to disobey, right? Each and every one of you, as a member of the armed services, take an oath to uphold the Constitution. Under Article 92 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, service members must obey lawful orders and disobey unlawful orders. And this poll conducted by Military Times, from middle of June to the end of July this year, does show that service members understand these rules. Of the 818 active duty troops they surveyed, just 9% stated they would obey any order. Another 9% didn't know, and 2% had no comment. So that is about 4 in 5 understand the duty to disobey illegal orders. Now, I guess what I want to focus on from that article is, are troops all versed in what is and what is not an illegal order?
No, we aren't trained. We are not trained on how to respond to an illegal order. That is one thing we aren't trained to do. And I think that's why the veteran movement right now involved in this opposition is so important. Probably the scariest thing I've witnessed with this regime is the generals being called. In that meeting, my job was to keep a general alive, the highest ranking officer in Iraq. And these people who are stuck as National Guard and active duty and reservists, I can't imagine what they're going through. How do you say no? As a rape victim and survivor, how do you say no when you're being attacked like that? Most of us freeze. And how are we to assume they aren't going to freeze when given these orders? What do you do? The risk of going against your warrior ethos and dedication to duty and willingness to make a personal sacrifice in your country. Do we just end up in Leavenworth and take it? Like, what do we do?
Yeah, go ahead, Derek. There's got to be a lot of peer pressure.
I know very, very personally about what contradicting an order can do for you. I was a corporal in the Marine Corps and got busted down to a private because I refused an order. It was a perfectly lawful order, but my conscience happened to grow at that moment. Horrible thing during a peacekeeping mission when your conscience grows because you don't want to pull a trigger at someone who's holding a child. So I got busted down, was able to make it back to Lance Corporal before, I got injured while over in Kosovo. And yeah, it's to understand at 18, 19, 20 years old what is lawful or non-lawful is extremely difficult for these kids to go through. They, like Blythe said, we were not trained on the difference between lawful and unlawful. We were trained, especially like my MOS, which was infantry assaultmen, or what we called super grunts, because we fired every weapon platform.
We called you bullet sponges.
Well, yeah, exactly. But but we got to fire every weapon platform in the Marine Corps. And we're only taught for one thing: put rounds down range effectively. One shot, one kill is the Marine Corps ethos. It's not, political theory is not part of the ethos. I mean, yeah, there is no such thing as a dumb Marine. We have an actual reading list from the Commandant that we have to read all the time. We're not stupid. It's just seen that we are because we're America's bulldogs. But we're not taught the minutia of what is legal and what is not. We are trained to comply. I mean, you are broken down, and I don't know how it is in Army or Navy basics, but you are stripped from your individual self, completely ripped apart psychologically and at times physically, and you are rebuilt as one unit. There is no I. It is this recruit. So you are completely, your humanity and your individuality are stripped away from you. That is the toughest part for non-veterans to understand, is the fact that, yeah, it may be in our ethos to disobey lawful or unlawful orders, but how the hell are you going to do that when you're not an individual anymore?
If anything, Derek, I was heartened in a way by how stoic and disinterested that audience of generals and admirals seemed to be in Hegseth's pep talk or Trump's insane rant. And so I want to ask you, Blythe, you spent a lot of time around a general in Iraq, and these are the folks who are well versed in the ins and outs of what is a legal or illegal order, and they've got the uniform code of military justice memorized back and forth, those guys. So I guess put me inside their head as they're listening to this, since you spent a lot of time around folks like that.
Well, if I this is what I would like for it to be at the forefront of their psyche or their head or their thought process. Before you make a decision, you worry about the collateral damage. If I pull this trigger, or if I tell someone to pull this trigger, who is it harming? Is it just harming the receiving end of said bullet? Is it harming a family, a village, a military, a country, a state? Is it how does this make us look as a country or as a unit? And we are only as strong as our weakest link. So this is an SOS. This is a save our souls, save our state, save our sanity, save our souls, schools, save our future, save us. Please remember that we are only as strong as our weakest link. And you, the generals, need to be aware that the weakest link right now are those of us who are fighting for the right thing. And we need to be heard, we need to be listened to, we need to be in the forefront. And it will require great sacrifice from those generals. It will likely get them fired. It will likely get them ostracized. It will, the peer pressure in the military is unreal. Not just from your literal peers, but from your subordinates and your higher ups. And not many generals were prior enlisted. I think all three of us were enlisted, so we worked for a living, which is a dig to general or to officers.
Don't call me sir. I work for my money.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm hoping it's like what we say with the end users, like we need them to hear us and understand what it is to be in our position. Maybe that means they need to listen to this podcast or have a conversation with us or check their inbox, because I've sent many of them messages, please help, what are we doing, I'm scared. We have one opportunity to get us out of this mess, and I think right now it's going to rely on the people who are in that room to do something radically different. And I don't know what that looks like.
I'm glad you walked me there, because that's kind of the last thing I wanted to ask today. Now it is very, very uncomfortable to even broach this topic. But given that the president of the United States and his cabinet are essentially, I don't know, a group of illegal orders in a trench coat.
Yeah.
Should the American people, and some are, I've seen it talk online, should we be low key hoping for a military coup?
I would say I would toss it in. I have a two-part thought on this. My first part of it is that Blythe is right. These folks need to be thinking about what is right, and again upholding their oath to the Constitution. But I don't think it's just incumbent on the generals or the higher ups. I think it's also incumbent on the senior enlisted, and I think it's also because the senior enlisted, if you get the E5s and higher engaged with their chain of command, I guarantee something will start moving forward. But again, it does take that conversation to start forward. But the concept of a military coup in the traditional sense, I would be hard pressed to feel that that would happen unless unless like the world health is on the brink of it. I do think they could lead by example by showing this is how we are going to do. I mean, yes, there are some things that can be tweaked and peaked. There always is, but the fundamental of our military is to uphold its constitutional oath. That has to be first and foremost above anything else. And the thought too is these orders, as they've been quote unquote issued, they're from the quote unquote Department of War, which does not exist. So they can hang their hat on that because only Congress can change the Department of Defense to the Department of War. or anything else for that matter. It is not something that the president has the ability to rebrand. That's not a thing. It's a, hey, I want you guys to think about doing this, but Congress can tell them that, dude, pound sand. That is the beauty of the separations of powers and how our republic is set up. But on the other side of that, and I think the generals can take that and say, yeah, okay, we'll kind of listen, but we're kind of gonna do it in a we'll go in a direction that we can make some things make sense, but not the insane parts of it. So I think as the term coup is traditionally identified, no, but I think there are different ways to lead resistance and to show leadership in other ways by example. And I think our military can really help us do that.
Derek, what do you think?
I'm being optimistic, but
yeah, I don't think military will try to overthrow the government. It's just not within the ethos of the military to do that. I mean, they can resist, but there are ways for us to right the ship. It will take time to right the ship. We will get there. If we don't, then it won't matter anymore because we won't be a country anymore because we'll have ripped ourselves apart. And to answer a comment that I saw online, by the way, purple is the best flavor of crayon. It is the best flavor.
Do purple crayons taste like purple Kool-Aid? Do they taste like that fake grape flavor?
Yeah, purple drink. Yeah.
Purple drink.
The debate just got ended right there.
No, I'm glad we can still laugh. Blythe, I want to give you the last question though, because again, you spent time around generals. You kind of maybe can help us get inside their head. Will our general and admiral class refuse Trump's illegal orders? Will they refuse to occupy the streets of America?
I hope so. This is so scary. I don't always. I'm losing optimism in other people's actions. So I hope I am proved wrong, but I don't. I think it's us, the people, the veterans, the civilians, who are going to have to figure out a way to make it better. And I hope it's not a coup. I don't want to be involved. That's terrifying. It's terrifying I don't want to bear witness to it. I don't want to be involved with it. I want nothing to do with it. I want our elected officials and our military personnel to fucking do the right thing. Finally, to do the right thing. And I don't know if that's in anyone's wheelhouse, but I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, this was in 2005 and I was just a bodyguard, right? I wasn't in on these conversations. I will plead for help from anybody who has the power to do something. So I hope they do. I just want them to do the right thing and to be transparent about it and talk to us about it. And that's hard for people who are in the service right now to do. They can't use their voices like we can.
Yeah.
But it's our duty to speak for them if we can.
No, maybe we redefine coup, right? Like maybe we redefine what a coup is, because right now I feel like we're redefining what a civil war is. We are at war. We have been at a civil war did it really ever end? We have one side versus the other. We are constantly being pitted against each other when it's really the wealthy versus the poor. So perhaps this is where we start acknowledging that and end that war.
Great words from all of you. Blythe, I can see, that you're emotional and it just means a lot. And just, I can see how much you care, and all of you I can see how much your service means to you, how much it shaped you, and how seriously you take that oath and listen, the United States Armed Services have been involved in a lot of I don't know, fuckery over the last our entire history, especially since maybe since 1900 or right around there, since we really became an empire. It is, but just like conservatives like to use the phrase love the sinner, hate the sin. You can hate the mission and love the soldiers. And I love all of you guys, and I appreciate your service, and I just can't thank you enough for really embodying the best of what we're supposed to be as a country. Let's go ahead and close this out for today. Where can the folks connect with you online, learn more about you? I know Blythe, you're running for office, so you got a campaign website, I'm sure. Let us start with you. Where can the good folks learn more about you?
Quickly, I want to say that this isn't unique for Americans or veterans or military personnel. This is home. We are Palestine, we are Canada, we are Argentina, we are Venezuela, we are every other civilian in the world. This is home, and this is why it's important. This is where I was born. This is where I've lived my whole life. This is our home. And I care about our home being safe. Okay. I know other people watching this know what that means. So BlythePotter.com is my campaign website. I'm also the chapter lead for Hoosier Bitches Get Stuff Done. Please check that out, HoosierBitchesGetStuffDone.org. I'm at Blythe Potter IN on all the social media channels. And I am running for Secretary of State to save our state.
All right. Thanks, Blythe. Charles, how about you? Can the good folks get a hold of you online?
Yeah, if you go to Hancock Dems, that's our county website, HancockINDems.com. That has my bio and my contact information. I do want to throw out there that we do have a monthly speaker series that we talk about all these things more in depth too, to add into some of these great topics we've covered today. So you can reach out to me there. So yeah.
Thanks, Charles. Finally, Derek, close us out.
Hold Them Accountable is name of my podcast. That's on YouTube, on everywhere except for Facebook. Facebook, it's the People's Fourth. But hold them accountable at all the socials. I take the news, put a satirical spin to it, because if you haven't noticed, I'm a bit of a smartass. And I love being here with you.
Same. And I listen, if we can't have a little laugh through all of this, we will inevitably all go crazy. And it's important to just breathe a little bit, get ourselves into spaces where we can have these hard conversations. And I want to thank the three of you for being here and having this one with me. And thanks for all those folks out there watching on YouTube and Facebook and Substack Live. We gave that a try today. So join us next week. Again, please be sure to subscribe to Project Next if you like having important, meaningful conversations like these. Follow us on Project Next Movement on most of the socials, Project Next Media on TikTok. The website is projectnextindiana.com. Mine is whosleft.us. That is also my handle on many of the social media sites. Until next time, thank you for joining me here on Who's Left This Week. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.